Hey guys, Corey here from Corey David Photography. I wanted to show some of the other photographers out there a little bit of my post-processing workflow. So some of the tools I use for retouching, skin retouching, the background, things like that. So first off, we are here in Photoshop and we've got a picture that has already been edited in Lightroom. The only thing that was edited was color. So I take my raw files and bring them into Adobe Lightroom, change the color a little bit, some of the curves, things like that, contrast, blah, blah, blah. And then I'll bring it over into Photoshop once it's exported from Lightroom and then get going on it from there. So the very first thing you want to do is make a new layer so that you've always got your original layer underneath whatever your layer you're working on. So first thing I'm going to do, and I'll kind of fly through this because I'm used to doing it pretty quickly. When I look at this photo, I want the subject's eye to go right here. I want it to go right to her face. And so I want to get rid of any kind of background element that would be distracting and would take away from your eye going immediately right to the subject. So first thing I'm going to do is use the lovely Content Aware tool to get rid of this little bright spot right here. So you're going to take your lasso tool and just select the spot that you want to get rid of, right click and go to Fill with Content Aware, and it should just disappear. It's usually really good. If you've got a really weird section, sometimes it kind of goofs up and does stuff that you don't want it to. So right in here, maybe this is maybe going overboard, but go in and get rid of any little bright spots that are there that just seem a little out of place. Okay, so once you've gone through the background and gotten rid of any kind of distracting elements, this looks pretty good to me, then we'll move on. Usually I just go straight into the skin and then I'll do any kind of hair flyaways after that. So luckily our model here actually has really great skin to start with, so it's not going to be really hard. There's just a few little imperfections that I want to get rid of. I'll show you two different ways to do that. One way that's super easy is just to use the patch tool and come in here and circle your blemish and bring it over and it just goes away. Incredibly convenient. There's another more complicated version of this called frequency separation. That is extremely handy if you want to maintain pore detail in the skin, but you still want to get rid of maybe color flaws. So like right here, I'll probably show you here in a little bit. To go through and get rid of this redness right here, you would use frequency separation. So let me go through initially and just get rid of some of these little random things. Since I got that done, I'm going to show you the frequency separation here in this area and see if we can't get it to look a little bit better. So what we're going to do first is duplicate your layer, your existing layer, again. So hit Command J to duplicate that layer, hide the top layer, grab the second layer, and then come up to the Edit or the Filter menu, and we're going to put a Gaussian blur on it. And with this blur, you want to have preview selected. Make sure that you're not losing a lot of detail in like the nose and the eyes and things like that, but just to where the skin kind of goes soft. So this is probably about good right here. What you're doing is you're preserving the bottom layer. That was probably a little too much. I'm going to go back. You're preserving the bottom layer that has all the color information on it. And then you're essentially taking the top layer and you are putting the top layer that has all the pore information on it back onto the color layer. A little complicated sometimes, and sometimes it's not. So once you've blurred out the bottom layer, come up, unhide the top layer, grab it, go to Image, Apply, Image, you want to apply layer 1, which is this layer right here, the very first layer that you just put the Gaussian blur on. Select that, go to invert. You want to make sure that you are on the add blending mode. Opacity is at 100%, scale is at 2. That's very important that the scale is at 2 right there. Hit OK, and then what we're going to do with this layer is come up to normal and select linear light, and that just puts all that pore information back onto it. So you essentially created a high pass filter, threw it back onto the color layer, which is that one, and there's all your detail again. So if we select the original, it looks pretty darn close. So now you can go in and edit all your colors on this layer and keep all your pore information. So right here, we're gonna go in and get rid of some of this redness. So let's select a brush tool and put the flow at like 5-ish%, somewhere down here. Opacity, it's probably fine. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller by hitting the left bracket key. Hold down Option to define the source color, and then you're going to go in here and just start painting like that. And so there you can see, compared to this one, it's already a lot less red right in here. So same thing, I'm going to define the source point color right there, and then I'm just going to start painting in all red in here. Get rid of that redness and some of that purple. Okay, so now that that is done, we're going to start messing with some of these flyaway hairs and see if we can't get rid of those. I always like to, I'm going to duplicate another layer. I always like to work on layers in case I ever totally mess something up. I can just get rid of it and go back to where I was. It's pretty much like clicking save inside of your document without making multiple revisions. So first thing, this is a little weird right here. This is actually like a lighting from the light that was coming this way. It messed up right there. So I'm going to get the clone stamp tool, come in here and option click, which defines your source point, which means I'm going to be using wherever I just clicked on my next click, and it kind of gives you a live preview of what it's going to look like. So, and then there's those little crosshairs that say you're pulling from that area right there. So I'm going to grab, let's see, this part of her chin. Again, this is all trial and error too. Come in here and just paint that in. So now we're going to go and get rid of all these little flyaway hairs and make it look nice and perfect. I would use the patch tool for this, but the patch tool has this weird, it's not a glitch, it's just the way it's made, where if you select really near to a bright source, it'll actually feather out that color and it looks super fake. Let's see if we can get it to work right here. So that actually worked pretty well. Yeah, and again, it's just trial and error with a lot of these things. See right there, it feathers it out and makes it look pretty strange. So we're not going to use that one. Instead, I like to use the clone stamp tool pretty small. The very last thing I do is I like to brighten up the eyes a little bit. So I'm going to grab these two layers right here. I'm going to merge them together. Because they are... Oh, JK dog. merge the layers. There you go. And then again, we can zoom out and look at the progress so far. So you can see all the little things that we've done so far. So again, I'm going to duplicate this layer right here, and then I'm going to come in to the dodge tool. Somewhere around 30%. It doesn't really matter, and I'll show you why in a second. So come in here, make that a little bit smaller or larger depending on your taste, and just brighten up those eyes. I've got the mid-tone selected right now. That tends to work best with a lot of the colors in the iris. Creates a really nice catch light in the eye. So that right there, I can already tell, is probably way too much. She looks like an X-Men character. So what you do is come up here to the opacity and the layer that you created on top. Just drag that back down until it looks normal. So this is the original all the way. So let's go like maybe somewhere right around here. Yeah. And then you can just toggle that on and off to see how it looks. That's probably a little bit much still. Let's go right about there. Yeah. So once you've got it down into 2 layers, you've got your final top layer that you've edited, and then your bottom layer that is the original picture. Just real quick, if you're not super familiar with Photoshop, to get out of it at the end, just go to File, Save As, and then what I like to do is just type Edit at the end of the ones that I've edited, and then you're going to want to save it in a JPEG format, not a Photoshop format, because Photoshop will retain these layers, the layer information, which I want that to just go away, and I want it to be a flat picture. So I'm going to save it to my desktop at the largest it'll go. Click OK, and there you go. And then you're done with your image editing. Thanks for watching. Bye.